Hey everybody, Mr. Wagstaff here. So this unit is going to be on the growth of religion in the Middle Ages. Now, the Middle Ages, and we're going to talk quite a bit about that with feudalism and knights, talking about some of the ways society works, talking about the bubonic plague that's going to end the Dark Ages. And we're also going to talk about the growth of religion. Now, the growth of religion happened over thousands of years, but it is very important to start this off talking about religion. The reason is, the vast majority of extreme conflicts that have happened throughout the history of the world have in some way been influenced, at least, by religion. So, it is important to understand some of the main players in religion and what the beliefs are of those religious groups in order to better understand why some of these conflicts are going to take place and why some of these groups don't get along, even though they seem very similar, but they're willing to fight to the death over the differences of their beliefs. So, for the first couple lessons here, we're going to talk about the religions that are very present still today in society and have existed for thousands of years, and what their general belief systems are to get a better understanding of why they have had beef with each other over time. All right. There's two main players, schools of thought when it comes down to religion. You have polytheism, all right, and then you have monotheism. So this is polytheism and this is monotheism. Before we even get there, it is important to point out that human belief in the afterlife is universal. So we know this from cavemen that thousands and thousands of years ago, when archaeologists have found their bones, they're buried with their tools. So these are very, very important tools to them that other cavemen could easily have used and would have benefited them, yet when people die, they were buried with their tools. The only justification for that would have been the fact that they had a belief in the afterlife that those people would need their tools in the next life, proving that humans by nature believe in a higher power. There are not other animals that do that. So it is one of the things that separate humans from animals in the fact that we believe in an afterlife. Not surprisingly, complex religions have developed over this natural belief in a higher power. And we're going to talk about some of the main ones today. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of religions throughout the history of time. The ones we're going to talk about today and tomorrow are the main ones that have changed the course of human history fundamentally. All right. So, again, brings us to polytheism and monotheism. There's two versions, we oversimplify it today, two versions of religion. Polytheistic and monotheistic. Polytheistic religions are religions that believe in a whole bunch of different gods. That's what we're going to talk about in detail today, specifically Hinduism and Buddhism, who believe in a bunch of different gods, whereas monotheistic is what people in America are more used to seeing. Those religions like Judaism, Jewish people, Islam, Muslims, and Christianity, Christians. Those are the big three, and they are a very, very unique story on how those come out, and I'll tell you that story as well. But today we're going to focus very heavily on Hinduism and Buddhism. So this is Buddhism, and we'll talk about Buddha and the story with Buddha, Hinduism and how it developed over time, and then we'll eventually get to Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, the three big monotheistic religions. All right. So there's these questions that you answer as we go through and answer them completely with complete sentences. Says why is the main difference between mono and theistic religions and polytheistic religions? It's supposed to be what is. Look, typo on the first question. Mr. Wagstaff makes mistakes. The main difference is that monotheistic religions only believe in one God, whereas polytheistic religions believe in multiple gods. All right. Now, I'm going to make sure to answer these questions as I go through and talk about it, so you'll have that on your screen. I want you to answer them as I go through, because I'm not going to stop at every question here and then go over it with you. Because what I found when I do that with these videos, people just skip through the videos, don't listen to me, and wait till they see this screen, and then they answer it. So I specifically am not going to do that. So I will go through, I'll put these still up here on the screen so that I can see that and I know if I've talked about it or not. If I get to one of these questions, I don't think I clarified it enough, then I will go over it. But you need to be answering these as I'm talking about it because you have the same stuff that's on the slides that are in your notes. All right, so Hinduism. So Hinduism developed over time, and it was a gradual process. Hindus believe in a whole bunch of different gods. Today, the most common location for Hindus would be in India. It is a very large religion still. I got a picture here. This is a whole bunch of different gods that the Hindus believe in. Now, Hindus specifically have unique belief systems that are different than most other monotheistic religions. In large part, they believe in reincarnation, meaning after you die, you come back as a person again. All right. Once you have lived a perfect life, all right. Once you have lived like a perfect life, then at that point when you die, you go to heaven. All right. So I'm oversimplifying that to let you know that reincarnation is a huge part of the Hindu religion. All right. Pivotal part. Absolutely pivotal because their entire structure of society revolves around this idea of reincarnation. So, let me explain here what is happening. There is a ranking system in most Hindu societies called a caste system. It is associated with reincarnation. All right. So those two things very much define societies that are Hindu. So, all the gods collectively, like their spirituality, is referred to as Brahman. All right. The goal as a Hindu is to become as much like Brahman as possible, a collection of all the gods. Just being a very good person, overly simplified. All right. So once you reach the top level and you've become one with Brahman, the top level, you reach this thing called moksha. All right. Once you reach moksha, then when you die, you go to heaven. All right. Their version of heaven. So here's where it gets interesting as far as how it affects their society. When you live your whole life and you die, if you lived really, really, really good in your life, you move up in society. All right. So bear with me because this is going to be a little different and it's crazy about how this is done. So this is a typical hierarchy of Indian society. Sorry, I shouldn't say Indian, Hindu society. All right. So the top here are Brahmin. Only people who are born into this class system. All right. It's a caste system, which is a class system. If you're born here, you stay here your whole life. All right. If you live a great life here, when you die, the belief is that's when you'll go to heaven. Now, no matter what happens in your life, you cannot change classes. So if you were born as a landowner here, it does not matter what you do in life. You can't go down, you can't go up during your life. Right? If you live a really, really good life, when you die, the belief is, you will be reincarnated and you'll be one step higher. So, whatever class you're born into is a result of how you were in a previous life. So, all the people up here, everybody respects them because, all right, they must have been really great in other lives. All right, there's nothing they can do in this system to get demoted down here while they live. If they're just an awful human being, when they die, they will be demoted down for their next life. So this is called the caste system. Because look down here, you have this group called the Untouchables. All right, the Untouchables, these are outcasts. All right, so they are street sweepers, latrine cleaners. Latrines are like bathrooms. You have to go clean out the outhouses. The people born into this caste system means if you're born into a family that does this as a job, you can never move up during your life. However, if you're really, really a good person here, you'll be able to move up in your next life. The caste system, all right, means in the Hindu society that there is no change in your social status. When you're born into a certain life, you stay in that life for your entirety. All right. So the caste system, this helps strengthen the caste system because nobody, and the caste system means you're stuck in a social class. The only way to move up is be good, and maybe in your next life you'll move up. Nobody attempts to change during their life because they believe they have another life coming that will be the karma, all right, that if they lived a good life, they will move up. If they lived a bad life, they'll move down. Nobody's here to help out the untouchables because just imagine how bad they must have been in their previous life to be down here. So nobody's going to help out the untouchables. So if you're born into the untouchables in a caste system, your life is going to struggle from the beginning because people feel like you deserve that. All right. So Hinduism in India, all right, and other places in Asia lasts for a really, really long time. It still exists today. All right. And we had talked about this right here. This is going to lead to Buddhism. So this is going to take place in the same places that are Hindu. All right. Buddhism becomes an offset of Hinduism. So it takes Buddhism and it takes it to a new level. What Buddhism does, and it starts with the guy called Buddha. All right. But his name's not Buddha. That is his enlightened name later on. His name is Siddhartha Gautama. All right. I got a picture of him here. Well, I got a statue of him. If you notice, Buddha's not fat. That's kind of a Siddhartha Gautama, the guy we're getting ready to talk about. He was never fat. He wasn't. So you see these fat Buddhas, and people talk about having a Buddha belly or anything like that. That is a positive rendition of him. It's kind of weird. Back then, people used to starve to death. That was a huge fear. You know what one of the most attractive things was back 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago? Being fat. That means you got so much extra money and wealth that not only can you can eat too much. So being chubby is a sign of gloriousness, and therefore it was an attractive trait. That is why Buddha is a lot of times shown to be fat, is just because he was a very liked person. All right. So here's what Siddhartha Gautama does. So this is the name. He grows up. He is born 536 years before Jesus is born. All right. So Buddhism takes place 2,500 years ago. All right. He was Hindu. All right. And he was born into like a royal family where he stayed inside a castle his whole life. All right. So he's 29. He had everything given to him, very rich. Everything was good. And he's like, well, how come I don't ever see anybody outside like these walls? And like his family's like, oh, you don't ever need to go out there. Everything's great out there. And he's like, really? Then why won't y'all let me go out there and see what's up? And they're like, you don't need that. Knowing that, you know, there's horrible stuff that happens in the world, and they've completely sheltered this man. He's 29 years old and has never left the palace, has no idea what's out there. So finally one day he just leaves, all right? And he leaves and he goes out and he is shocked. His life, where everything had been provided for him for his whole life, is not the same as what happens to everybody else. Like, people are struggling to survive. He sees violence. He sees hatred. He sees all types of horrible stuff in society. So he's so distraught by this. All right, he goes and he meditates under a tree one night. All right, and when he wakes up the next day, he is enlightened. He has an epiphany. All right, and he goes around and starts sharing his new insight that has come to him. All right, through his meditation. He shares that under the name of Buddha. All right, so a lot of people like what he's saying and they become Buddhist. So they're not necessarily followers of him, but more of his teachings, Jesus-esque, as we'll get to Jesus. So Buddha, he goes around and starts teaching people that there's a new, better way of doing things. And it becomes very popular, and we're going to explain why here in a second. So this is a statue of Buddha. All right. So Buddha says, hey, there's 4 major things. So he takes Hinduism, because everybody around is a Hindu, and he's going to add to it. He's like, look, all life is pain and sorrow. The cause of suffering is non-virtue. The only way to overcome non-virtue is to follow the 8-fold path. Like, he's got all this list of everything else, ways of doing things. A lot of it has to do with, he's like, look, life is awful, all right? There's nothing you can do to make life less awful. That's just how it is. However, you can achieve enlightenment and become a better person, and by doing that, you can reach enlightenment. A lot of this is going to be similar to Hindu teachings in some way, even though he clarifies it. However, their version of heaven is not called moksha. It's called nirvana. All right? Again, right now, there's not going to be a huge exodus from Hinduism to Buddhism, except for this one major part about Buddhism. In a Buddhist society, in a Buddhist religion, you can reach nirvana or heaven from any caste system. So if you're super low in Hindu, not only are you going to live your whole life being great, when you die, you just got to come out one step up. And how many great lives do you have to live before you can finally get to heaven and avoid all this horribleness that is on earth? However, in a Buddhist society, in the Buddhist religion, if you can reach enlightenment and go to heaven from any individual caste system, that is pivotal, all right? A lot of people are going to leave Hinduism and come to Buddhism because of the promise that you can go to heaven from any individual caste system at the time. So this is actually, Buddhism comes out, and here's some comparison. This is Hinduism, this is Buddhism, and then this is what they have in common, all right? So they both believe in reincarnation. But Hinduism is like you keep being reincarnated until you can reach moksha and then you're good. Buddhism, it's basically you're just respawning to try to go to heaven in any individual life. If you have a good enough life, you can go to heaven in that life. Because of that, a lot of people, especially people in the lowest caste, that realize if I'm Hindu, there's no way I can go to heaven. But if I become Buddhist, I can go to heaven. The fact that you start treating the caste as equals is going to fundamentally help Buddhists fight against Hinduism by treating them very much as equals. And we got them talking about that. All right. So that's polytheism. All right. Those are the 2 main ones, with Hinduism and Buddhism. Both are very peaceful religions, and generally speaking, all the religions that we're going to talk about are going to be very, very, very peaceful religions. All right. Now, typically in class, I would go through and start talking about the story of Abraham and going through monotheism, but I'm going to stop this today. We're only on about a 20-minute video here today. The reason that is because I want you to be able to go through, answer these, be able to submit it, and all that, and hopefully, it'll start picking up here more quickly, and we can spend a little more time on these lessons as you start figuring out how to answer this stuff and submit them. Again, make sure that you have complete sentences on your answers, and then you can go on to the next part of the lesson.